Hello friends, this is T-. Today. I am your host Dave, and we need to talk about some news items. So this is fairly new. I haven't really talked about news yet, but there are a couple security exploits that I want to get into. And also there are some interesting talks going on about Intel losing market share to AMD when it comes to the server space. And I want to touch on that just a little bit because a couple of years ago I was working for Dell. I worked for a couple of big companies, and I still work for a decently large company. I work in data centers mostly, so I'm a data center engineer. I work very much on like the hardware level worth of stuff, but I wanted to talk about that sort of thing. Anyway, enough of that. Let's get right into it. Boom. So the first thing I want to talk about is NetCat. So NetCat says it's a practical cache attacks from the network. So down here on the little white paper, from here, I don't know who that is. It says, attack overview. Our goal is to exploit the fact that the DDIO-enabled application server blah, 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 blah. We will show you that by abusing the sharing, we can leak sensitive information from the LLC of the application server. Now, I think I saw a couple of just posts that seemed like this was a really big deal, but kind of digging into it, it doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal, actually. For instance, an attacker with a physical access to the victim's machine could install a malicious PCIe device directly to access the LLC's DDIO region. So if you have physical access to a machine, that's pretty much game over. There are so many ways you could access this machine if you have physical access. Like you could install a PCIe device that's already compromised. So that's not the problem. So this white paper is trying to do a remote, unprivileged network attack on the victim's machine. And turns out, so if you use SSH and you're not using like LDAP keys or your RSA keys, or like any sort of authentication that you should be using, they can kind of predict what you're going to be typing depending on how long it takes for you to type it. And I don't know how. I mean, I saw on YouTube like people typing, may the force be with you, blah 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 blah, and it comes out perfectly on this NetCat capture. But I don't know how well that works in person, because a lot of times, like for my passwords, I type it rather quickly. I don't need to think about it. It's just a very quick, and it just comes out. And I don't know how well they'd be able to capture that. Anyway, it's kind of a not very interesting security exploit, but it's on top of everything else, right? Like you already have zombie load and all these other things. So, you're on the server side of Intel, and it's like, well, what should you do? Well, you should probably disable your hyperthreading, and you should disable all this other stuff. After a while, it gets annoying. So, and we need to talk about that versus AMD on the server side. Now, I know on the consumer side, things are different. Like AMD's actually a really good option right now. Really good option. And Intel, you have to justify it a little bit more. Like we justified Intel on a super high-end build that we were building just recently. We've got a 9900K because we were going to be running at 1080p at 240 hertz. It's a very specific reason why we got something that could, clock up to 5 gigahertz. Because on general, Ryzen can't do that. So this is what Intel has to say about security advisory. Back over here, I digress, as like Jay's 2 cents or someone would say. So it's a hardware advisory, right? But the severity rating is like 2.6 or low. So they don't actually, so they're talking about the data direct IO technology, DDIO, and remote direct memory access, RDMA. So it allows partial disclosure of information via adjacent access. So you kind of have to already be on the network to get that. Like when I'm logging into my company's stuff, I have to go through a VPN. So you already have to be able to be in there and capture the SSH tunnels through there, and it just doesn't seem like it's that problematic. However, this other attack that just came out a couple of days ago, SimJacker, this guy seems like it is a problem. So NetCat was like, yeah, They might be able to like capture some keystrokes, but they're just kind of guessing. Now, Simjacker is an entirely different beast. So Simjacker is literally someone that has some hardware. They just send you a text, and now they know your location and a bunch of other things. Like, you don't even get the text. You don't even know that they sent you a text. They just send you a text on a bunch of carriers. Like, it doesn't matter who the carriers are, and it just happens. Let's see, where did it say who was la 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 la. So by using these commands in your own tests, so beyond location, so you can get location, right? But you don't just get location. You can play a tone, send a short message, set up a call. Like, normally when you want to do something bad on someone's device, like they have to click like okay, or you have to click a link or do something like this. No, these guys, all you have to do is receive an SMS, not even MMS, not even like a multimedia, just a standard SMS. Like, you could have the most basic of phones and you could get an SMS, and this could happen to you. And they could know your location, among other things. Tones, short messages, send SS, I'm not sure what that is. Power off card, run at command, open a browser, send data, geographical location requests, so they can know exactly where you're at. So by using these commands, you can have misinformation, fraud, espionage, like that's a huge one. Malware spreading, denial of service, information retrieval, like language, radio type, battery level. But not only that, they know where you are. They know, espionage, it's bad news. And it's like, it happens on Apple, ZTE, Motorola, Samsung, Google, Huawei, and even IoT devices with SIM cards. So if you've got a SIM card, you're gonna have some issues with this one. And we should just read it a little bit. In its simplest, the main SimJacker attack involves an SMS containing a specific type of malware, like code being sent to a mobile phone, and then instructs the card within the phone to take over the mobile phone in order to retrieve some stuff. So it's an attack message, and all you need is like a phone and like a $10 piece of equipment. Like, it's not hard. So this is actually a really big issue, and they said that we believe the vulnerability has been exploited for at least the last 2 years by a highly sophisticated threat actor in multiple countries, primarily for the purposes of surveillance. So this has been going on for some time, and we're just finding out about it now, and it begs the question, like, what other things are happening? Like, what else is an issue here? Wow, like, this one's huge. And you could really, for like the every day-to-day person, maybe it's not such a huge deal, but maybe it is, because you don't need a whole lot of hardware to get going on it. Like, I think I read it here. No. What do you need to actually do this? Who is doing this? I can't remember. Oh yeah, here we go. You only need a $10 GSM modem and a target phone number. So you could, let's say all this stuff is leaked, and some random person at my work decides to monitor me. Like, all they need is a $10 GSM modem and a target phone number. You need $10 and a little bit of time, and you can make this happen. So it could not only be for like high level people for tracking and other things, figuring out exactly what they're doing and where they're doing it at, but it could just be the random stalker. It's kind of crazy. So we're definitely need to keep an eye on this one. I think they're going to talk about it a little bit more at the Virus Bulletin Conference, London 3rd, October 2019. So we'll definitely hear more about this one, but keep an eye on SimJacker, folks. It's going to be a doozy. All right, like, subscribe. Thanks for hanging out. It's been great. We'll see you next time.